Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back. Just quite concerning that I'm saying that intro just already. What are we, 7, 8 games into a season? As we are here to try and bring you instant analysis, trying to provide analysis, review to Bodo Glimt 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Look, let's not get away from it. Spurs did well in the end to rescue a point, but on the whole, a performance which does leave more questions than answers. And Richarlison ends up in the match with 10 touches, with one of them being at kickoff. An own goal is currently our top scorer. You're never seeing that. On this show, on this panel, I'm joined by returning. He's only been back 2 weeks. It must feel like 2 years. Richard Cracknell is back, as is the best actors in the land. Darren, Hart, TJ Ramini, back on your screens to provide you with what you ever want to call it, therapy or analysis, or just trying to summarise where Spurs are right now. But I have to say, look, before we bring in the stats, given the context of how poor we were from being 2-0 down, you probably would take a point. But my goodness, I think for many out there, that was really, really painful viewing. And really, we should never have been in that position. Exactly the same as Wolves. Look, I'm happy we're resilient to get something, but I think it's fair to say things do need to improve drastically in terms of performances. And I think a lot of that also comes down to the squad Thomas Frank is having to work with. And also, again, like we said in previous shows, trying to manage the element of 2 games per week and how Frank is going to do that in between what's going to be a crazy chaotic period for Tottenham during this season. Let's bring you in the match facts and the stats where we bring in the gents and get their view on the game. It finished Bodo Glimt 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2, 18 shots for Bodo Glimt to Tottenham's 8, 4 shots for Bodo Glimt on target to Tottenham's 3, Bodo Glimt 13 shots inside Spurs' box to Tottenham's 7 in reply. Recovery run, Spurs making the more of them, 47 of 44. Tottenham edging the tackles, the busier of the 2 sides, 18 to 17. Tottenham also busier in terms of interceptions and clearances. Tottenham maybe edging the corner count, but possession-wise, that's favourable there. 52% to Bodo Glimt, to Tottenham's 48. And then in terms of XG, Bodo Glimt 2.91 to Tottenham's 1.55. Quite interestingly, Glenn Hoddle, of course, legend, and someone that Crackers knows very, very well by doing a lot of Legends Nights with him. Glenn Hoddle said actually after the game, Tottenham came second best in a lot of areas on the pitch. But at the end of the day, when you play like that, it's great to pick up a point away from home. This shows you the strength of Tottenham now. They can play resiliently and still pick up a point. So interesting thoughts there from Tottenham legend Glenn Hoddle. Cracks to bring you in. Look, there were times where it was stale, it was unproductive, it was embarrassing at some points, but Spurs do walk away with another point. What is this, the 3rd game in a row we've come back to take something? And I have to say, look, when your front 3 in a Champions League game is Johnson, Odegaard and Richarlison, it's maybe a tough ask to expect more, but you have to also remember we need Solanke, Mawani, Kulusevski, Maddison to come back into this side, which I think will transform Tottenham's attack. But I think it's fair to say that I understand fans' patience right now is being tested by another quite dour display. And it's really Thomas Frank's job to find effective solutions in the meantime. So your thoughts, Cracks, on Bodo Glimt 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2?
Well, welcome to Big Boys Football, Thomas Frank, isn't it? Hello, everybody. Hope you're all well. Despite that performance, you're right, Rick. Resilience, yeah. And, you could quote Napoleon Bonaparte and don't bring me good generals, bring me lucky ones. I think we got lucky tonight, and I think Bodo could be feeling very, very sorry for themselves because they brought the game to us. They had the impetus to actually try and make a game of this, and we just looked very flat-footed, very dour, and even with those players missing, what we had on the pitch tonight versus Bodo, who are more decent than you would actually give them credit for. I mean, the mind would tend to maybe go towards, oh, okay, only 8,000, town of 40,000 people, small Norwegian team, but they are a decent outfit. However, that team out there should be good enough to overcome that obstacle this evening, because they missed a penalty. They had 3 or 4 other chances, and on another night we could have gone in at half time absolutely dead and buried, 3 or 4 down. So look, this is very early into Thomas's tenure, but the performances, some of the performances have been very, very worrying. Yes, there's been some resilience to come back, and you should always be mindful of performances, because eventually you will run out of that resilience. But as I said, you can't, first season, all bets are off with any manager that comes in. Whilst they get settled, learn stuff, learn who's who, learn what's what, bring players in. But those players tonight looked absolutely miles off of it. And we were talking earlier, Rick, when you said he was looking at Saturday. He was looking at Saturday before tonight. He really was. He was looking at Leeds, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bit old-fashioned thinking, but you play what's in front of you. And tonight's game was our next game, and he's held players back because of Saturday. That's all you can think, and it's backfired spectacularly. So look, as I said, it's very, very early, and it's very similar. You've got to hope that it's very similar to Poch's regime in that first season. We had some awful results.
We did. Wigan and Stoke were terrible.
Yeah, as he tried to get over his philosophies and his way. So you would hope that Thomas Frank will go in the same trajectory as that. Because at the moment, if that is what he's going to offer up, well, I mean, look what happened with Nuno, if he was trying to offer up them types of level of football. But
and the natives will get restless quickly, you feel.
They will get very restless and very quickly. So it was a worrying performance again tonight. But okay, a small tip of the hat to that resilience and getting back into it.
Yeah, spot on, Cracks. Can't agree with that. And I think we have to say, I think it's the third game where we've come back to get something. But I mean, look, Dow, even I can't really dress this one up. Poor, uninspiring for most of the game. We didn't really deserve anything from it, but crucially, they got a point. And sometimes, Dow, maybe it's better to be lucky than good, because it was times in that game we were very, very lucky, right, to even think about coming away with a point when you go back. If anyone can stomach going back to watch a really difficult display at times. And I think one thing you did say down the green, which I want to give you credit for, and I'm sure you'll bring it into the show, people might forget we was playing on an artificial pitch. Now, not trying to make excuses about the conditions we're playing on, because they're professional footballers, right? And at the end of the day, they should be able to play in any condition, but that may also have an impact on the game itself. Dan, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, we got out of jail tonight. That was absolutely, we got out of jail, because that performance was not great at all. And we can't use the pitch as an excuse. I'm never going to allow that to be the case, because, as we know, at Tottenham, there are artificial pitches there. They train on it. And it was really interesting at the start of the game, you saw how much they watered the pitch. And it was for a slick game. They wanted that ball to move fast and slick. And Bodo's passing was amazing. They outpassed us. They outfought us. And we got very, very lucky tonight. And this is where Frank's going to have to learn, because my concern when he first got the appointment was, how's he going to manage 2 games a week? And he's never done this before. And this is going to really test him. Champions League, Premier League, Cup games. There's a lot going on. And he's trying to manage this squad. We have to remember also as fans, it is now a squad game. And what we're going to learn about our squad is where the weaknesses are. And right now, when we rotate our front line, which we are missing still some key players in that, as we all know, the ones that are available, they don't look great together. There's no cohesion, there's no fluidity, there's no understanding. And it was off right from minute one. Like when Bertvo does that cross for Richarlison very early and he can't get his feet right. And I think the commentator said, which really tickled me, he wasn't expecting it. And I was like, what do you mean he wasn't expecting it? He's on the pitch running to the goal. Of course he's expecting it to come. And that,
what's he on there for? What's he playing for?
You know what I mean? That just summed up where we were and where the game was for us. It felt like Cracks made a point of saying it's like we played for...
It's like you and TJ walking on the set and going, oh, I wasn't expecting lights and cameras and a producer.
It killed me. It killed. And anyone who thinks I'm lying, go back and watch it. And it's absolutely said. It's there. TNT absolutely said it. And I think today, I know Cracks, you said about had eyes on the weekend. That could be part of it. But I think also there's that thing of underestimating what Bodø were about and overestimating what these players are about. And I think that's what we're going to really learn as we go forward, because I know there was a tactic and there was a game plan, and he spoke about one-on-ones and looking at Odebear and looking at Johnson to take that man and really push them on the press. And they did none of it. The job wasn't executed well at all. And I think by the time we got 6, 7, even 10 minutes in, we were hanging on to a game. And I think that was frightening to see. We can't hang on. We've never been a side that hangs on. We are better defensively, but we cannot allow any team who pass like Bodo Glimt and upwards, because remember, we're going to play far superior to them as we go through the Champions League. And if it's how we set up, we could be in trouble. We got out of jail tonight. So I'm grateful that I'm sitting here saying we've got a 2-2 draw, but that weren't pretty at all, people. That was not pretty at all.
It wasn't. And I think, again, just to bring that balance to it, we know we've only lost a couple of games this season, obviously Super Cup final and the game at Bournemouth. So look, there is a resilience about this team, which is good to see. But at the same time, Tej, to bring you in, like I said at the start of the show, own goals is now Spurs' highest scorer this season with 4 already. I'll say that you're nervous seeing that. Tottenham was so unambitious for most of the game. But fair play to them for coming back and getting what could be a precious point. It does show resilience, but again, I can't lie to people and be disingenuous. Much of that performance was very underwhelming, right, Teach, to bring you in and get you to unmute from your end?
Yes. I mean, it was a completely listless, lethargic, languorous performance. This is the Champions League. I mean, being on the show over the weekend after the Wolves result and, speaking again, not with some great sage, there are no easy games in the Premier League. You're certainly not going to get an easy game in the Champions League. And Crackers said it correctly. They're no mugs. Of course they're not. And also, they're champions where they're from. The champions of Norway. They're obviously have a very proud tradition. And also, I think that there are certain aspects which are prevalent amongst certain teams from certain parts of the world. And what you're always going to get from Northern Europeans is grit. They're a very gritty side. They do the industrious part of the game with great diligence. And fair play to them. If I was a Bodo fan tonight, I'd be really proud. I'd be disappointed not to come away with the 3 points, but I'd be really proud.
You're right, Tej. They were exceptional.
Of the fight that they showed. And again, I've alluded to this on the last episode. I'm going to say it again. I thought against Wolves, we came in with a complacent, dare I say, arrogant attitude that we were going to run over the bottom team in the Premier League. And they really brought it to us, and we were very fortunate to come away with a point. Tonight we looked the same, and what I would like to see drilled into this team, I spoke about it the first episode that I was on this new season. I spoke about it again on the weekend after the Wolves result, is that what I'd seen from Thomas Frank was a real aggression in our players, which then of course manifests itself in a multitude of other ways. It gives you pace, and it gives you power, and it gives you fortitude, and it gives you, it manifests itself in a bunch of positive ways. And I haven't seen that for a long time. And again, that's got nothing to do with whether you're Odebear or Tell or Simmons or Kudus or Palhinha, or it doesn't have anything to do with the name that's on the back of your shirt. It's a decision that you can make. I will chase every ball down. I will never give up a 50-50. I'll win every header. I understand that I'm going to make errant passes. That's part of the game. But if I do that, I'm going to bust my ass to get it back. Things like that. I haven't seen that in a while, and that's really concerning me. Is it a lack of energy? Are they tired already? Because I'm just already bored with this plodding, torpid, just strolling around. You're not going to get away with it. And that, for me, is the number one thing that has to go. When we play Leeds on Saturday, he talked about us coming flying out the blocks against Wolves.
Yep.
Give us that. Give us that. And if we don't see that, then that's a real problem for me. So listen, I'm glad that we came back and we were very fortunate to get the result. To be honest, brother, I don't think saying resilient is the right word. I do think we were just very fortunate tonight. I'll take the point. I'm happy with that, but I'm not happy with this lackluster, indolent, arrogant attitude.
Yeah, I mean, look, TJ, it's hard to, I suppose the reason why I'm using that word resilient is the fact that it's not been the first game that we've come back and got something. We've shown that.
Oh, I get that, bro.
But the last couple of games. But you're right. We're more lucky.
Against a team that we should be beating. I'm not disagreeing with you. To go 2 goals down and then to score 2 on the bounce. Okay, great. To salvage a point, but we shouldn't be going to teams like this and looking to salvage something.
Agreed.
Is my point.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think it goes back to what you said, Cracks, and I said this again that my feeling was as soon as that lineup dropped, I just had that kind of feeling he's got his eyes on Leeds here. And Leeds is going to be a difficult game. It's again a 12:30 in the UK. Ellen Road, it won't be easy. That place will be rocking. They've come back to the Premier League. They've done fairly well. But I think you said the most important thing, Cracks, is that your next game is your most important, right? And it just felt for me, I feel like we maybe overlooked it given that selection. I mean, it's difficult because I know we shouldn't be playing that badly against that level of opposition. But I think we have to say, and T said it really well, I do think you say fair play to Bodø because they were superb. They were very well drilled. I think it's a worrying sign, Cracks. I have to say this for the capability of a rotated squad, that is the performance. Because like TJ said in the back room there, the players that aren't playing do need to get an opportunity, do need to show to Frank why they should be up there for selection. Does this show you really that outside of 10, 11 first-team players, we haven't really got the squad to rotate? Would that be one of the biggest things? Again, I have to say that and caveat that by saying we've got no Madison. We've got no Kulusevski that would transform probably our attacking instinct. We've got no Mawani. I've known a player that's had a dead leg to be dead for the last 2 weeks. I mean, what is going on with that dead leg?
Wow.
And you've got Solanke now. That I understand from the club's perspective, they maybe wanted to wait for surgery. But we've wasted 2 months where maybe if we operated earlier, Solanke might have been back for this game. So it's a bit of a mess at the moment. It feels like we are relying on 10, 11 players. And when you do rotate, the squad simply isn't there to get results. We're getting away with a point here. We are getting away with a point.
Yeah. I mean, this could be a hangover from previous regimes where buying some depth for the squad of a good quality is coming back to bite us a little bit. For all of the Frank selections and style of play and the pitch not being so great, etc., etc., etc. I think there's a lot of this is just a good old-fashioned, some of those players just ain't good enough. Just simple, plain, not good enough to be able to step up and play to that level. Odegaard, just offered nothing tonight. Richarlison, absolutely nothing again. He's either New York or New Year, Baywatch or Crime Watch. All of a sudden he pulls you out a flying bicycle kick, and then in the next game he's falling off of his bike every 2 minutes. It's just like it is shocking. You just cannot tell what you are gonna get with him. So there's undoubtedly some players in there where you think to yourself, whoever scouted them's not really done their job well. He looks like a purchase because the structure of the payment for him and the wages worked out well. to fill a shirt and not cost us
Cracks,
too
we
much.
haven't bloody seen him. We've not even seen him.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't judge him, but some of those players on the pitch tonight, you just think to yourself, just not good enough. No matter who's managing you, no matter what pitch you're playing on, it's as simple as that. Just not good enough. So that's another area that needs addressing. So, and that takes time, Rick, doesn't it? So yeah, it could just be for all the searching of it could be this, it might be that. Has he got this right? Did he look at this? Did he look at that? Some of those players that went out there tonight were just shit. Basically, they just were shit. They were terrible. And you think to yourself, yeah, okay, this is more than just one off game here. We're seeing more bad than good. So that's something long term that's going to need addressing as well. But once you get some of those more regular first team players back, then you can start to see where we are as a first 11, if you like, and then go from there. But yeah, just some players miles off of it tonight. Absolutely miles off of it.
I just think the thing for me is, Dal, coming to you, is that we could barely at times string two passes together, and then if you look at the kind of 65-minute mark, there was like a gaping hole in the midfield where it does feel that maybe, like Crack said there, he's right, there's that kind of Levy lag where we've got players here that simply aren't up to the optimum level that are going to make the difference. I know that everybody is searching for Frank to find the solutions. And look, again, he is the manager. He sets the team. He picks the team. He asks them to set up how they would like, well, how he wants them to set up. But at the end of the day, how much do you think is on Frank not having a squad available to him to be able to play, adjust, rotate twice a week? Is he just simply not there at the moment, Dal, in terms of the squad available to him? And again, you have to put on top of that as well, no Decky, no Madison, no Mwani, no Solanke. I mean, that's a forward line there that, would transform us, wouldn't it, surely?
100%, Rick, 100%. And that's why, like I said, we got out of jail tonight and we got lucky. And Frank is in his early stages. I'm not throwing things at him right now because, like you said there, we've got a squad that he's learning and he's trying to understand. He's got to see for him where the potential is, where the dead wood is, where there is room for growth and coaching, and where there's a mindset that isn't quite correct. But the only way he's going to find out is in playing them in matches. And he chose today as the game to try and implement Johnson back on the right side, putting Odegaard on the left, trying to get balls to Richarlison, and looking at that midfield three of a Bentancur, and look, what could they do in there? How does that work? And it didn't work in many aspects, and he's going to learn from that if he's the coach that I believe he is. And I think when you look at our front line, there are so many players that would elevate this front line to another level. As Crack quite rightly alluded to, that front line is not great tonight. You look at it on paper and it doesn't scare anybody. And we have players that would scare people and would have you frightened to come up against us. And I think sometimes you have to take risk. And today was a game where he took the risk and went, I'm going to play you guys. I'm going to see what you're doing for me. He's been trying to play Odegaard in a few other games, trying to see what he can do. Maybe it's a confidence thing. He's trying to build that into him. But today it wasn't working. And that's why the defense worked overtime today, because nothing stuck. The minute they cleared it, it came back. And they were overworked. And that's where you then have to look at the other aspect to the game. Well done to people like Danzo. Vicario not had his great game. Vicario was
we're going to come on to Vic. We're going to come on to Vic.
Yeah, he was under pressure. Yeah. And I think what you found around him is you saw that Van der Ven suddenly became a different player because he was taking that pressure. He was feeling it. Danzo was stepping up. Spence and Porro were trying to step up, and you watch everyone work so hard. Defending that level of concentration for that amount of time is hard work. And I feel that today he would have learned about that back four, and some of them will come out of that game and be livid at their midfield, livid at the front line, going, you overworked me tonight. I didn't need that game on Astro. I didn't need that game midweek. Work for me. And I think that's where there's going to be questions, and I feel that you learn more from games like this than you do when you batter aside. And I think also we didn't lose. And I think Frank made a good point. If you can't win, don't lose. And again, we're not losing games. We're still in the Champions League. We've got 4 points from 2 games. That's a great start. If you look at it from anyone else's perspective, well done us. So there are positives in it. They're not big positives, but there still are some.
It's interesting you said it, Dal, because I think, you know, there's lots of chat, and rightly so, about how poor we've looked over the last couple of games. But if there's one thing I'm going to try and take away from it from a positive aspect, is that we are finding ways not to get beat. And,
100%.
you know, you can look at that 2 ways. Again, we have struggled now in a lot of these games. I understand it's causing certainly some frustration and some concern around the fan base. But hopefully, you know, this resilience, I know T didn't like me using that word resilience, but hopefully the fact of coming back is going to hopefully settle us down and hopefully be better for us in the latter part of the season. But I just keep on thinking at the moment that how much is it hampering us by having that many players out? And I don't mean this disrespectfully. With Odebear and Tell, I just don't think they're at the required level for what we need. And no doubt you're very much about, and I understand it, you know, give these players time. You know, it's a new system, a new manager, obviously new team. But I worry about the drop-off, Tej, and it's important I bring you in on this point because I know we're going to discuss some players shortly, but is that the biggest problem, that the drop-off still from our best available 11 to what we've got in amongst the squad is still a massive drop-off? Is that still a worry to you when we are trying to rotate 2 games per week?
Really is. I think, not to be pedantic or to quibble semantics, but what worries me the most about that, Rick, is that it shouldn't be. That drop-off shouldn't be quite so chasmous. It shouldn't be. You know, if we're starting Johnson rather than Kudus, we shouldn't kind of drop off a cliff. There shouldn't be kind of nothing going down the right. Or if we play, you know, Tell rather than Xavi, the same thing. It shouldn't be like we have nobody there. And so the thing is about the squad is that, you know, they're part of this team, right? They're absolutely fundamental. And I remembered even before, you know, the season had started, I was thinking, and I'm sure a great many of us were, I know we discussed on our WhatsApp chats with each other and of course on this show as well, that we were last looking like a team that had a semblance of depth. And I was actually excited about the, dare I use the word, quality that we had in, dare I use this word, abundance. So what's really concerning for me, and I wonder how the other lads feel about this, and of course the viewers and the listeners, why is it that our, and let's not say second string, but perhaps not players that are going to be first on the team sheet when you're choosing your starting 11, why are they performing quite so poorly? The thing is that Crackers, one of his inspired analogies earlier was talking about, you know, Darren and I walking onto a film set and not being able to, you know, decipher what was going on. Well, you know, to use another showbiz analogy, if you are an understudy, if you're given an opportunity to come on, take it.
Yep.
And that for me is not just frustrating and annoying, but also perplexing. So if you are somebody, I actually didn't think Odebear was that bad tonight. I thought he was pretty decent. I know that, you know, Johnson really divides a room. I've always been a pro Johnson person, but if you do start, really grasp that opportunity. I thought Archie Gray came on and played exceptionally well, and I thought he played really well as well against Villarreal when he came on. And you know, I like him, and again, that shows that you are a professional in the true sense of the word, that, you know, this is what you do for a living, how you ply your trade. And so if you're given an opportunity, you have to grasp it. And that for me is extremely concerning. What's really concerning for me as well is Richarlison. I just cannot abide this petulant, stroppy teenager routine. I cannot stand it. I cannot stand it in actual teenagers, and I certainly cannot stand it in a 30-year-old teenager who's played millions of pounds a year to play the greatest sport that we ever invented. I cannot stand it. Stop bloody sulking and get on with it. I would actually watch the comments explode. I would actually try Brennan Johnson as a number 9. He knows where the back of the net is. I would try him as a number 9 and put Stroppy Pants on the bench for a little while and see if Brennan can just keep scoring goals from the centre. Kudus on the right, Xavi on the left, Johnson down the centre. Crazier things have happened, and goodness knows we need something.
And we've got Dame Scarlett there. Why don't he get some minutes as well?
I hear that, man. Let's give him some minutes as well. 100%. Let's give him some minutes. But I would start Brennan Johnson at number 9 ahead of Richarlison right now, because brother, that attitude, I cannot abide it, mate. I cannot abide it. Like I said, in real life, stroppy teenagers, but not a 30-year-old stroppy teenager who's paid millions of pounds. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, you know what? It's a frustrating night because I think, again, it's bizarre. We've come back to nick a point, but the concern is that the way the players are performing and maybe being set up is a degree of concern. Look, let's hear from Thomas Frank. We're going to try and bring you the press conference later in the show, but let's hear from Frank, who has spoken to media and given his verdict on Bodo Glimt 2, Tottenham 2. Let's hear from Frank. We'll be back with you after this very, very short break. Let's hear from Thomas Frank.
Well, Thomas is here in Norway. Thomas, a dramatic game. It's finished 2-2. What was your take on it?
Yeah, very, very dramatic. I think the players showed great attitude, great mentality, great determination, which I think is a very, very important part to have in a team. The players are really, really fighting hard, and that kept us in the game and got us back into the game, and got a 2-2 after being 2-0 down away from home against Bodø. That is very good up here. The other thing is that I think until 2-0 goal, I think Bodø was better than us today. I think we struggled a bit with the way to defend without them creating, let's say, massive chances onto the 1-0 goal. Then we struggled a little bit, not enough times to get aggressive into the high pressures, 1-2. And then I felt on the ball, I think we should have got out more times. We only had a good spell in first half. We should have done that more often. But I think there was signs of something better. Second half, then we got down, and then we showed that top mentality to come back into the game.
Given the way that the game panned out, were you happy with the points come the full-time whistle?
Yeah, I think we need to be happy with the point. It's when you're down 2-0, 22 minutes to go in Champions League away from home against a very, very good home side, then I think we need to be happy with the point. And I think the way we showed again character, that will bring us a long way. Very happy with that in the players.
It's really interesting if you look into the stats. Only once before have we had a better start in the Champions League after 2 games. We've got 4 points. That's pleasing, isn't it?
That's definitely pleasing. I think Champions League is Champions League, and it's very difficult. I think everyone should know how good Bodø is up here, and I think also fair play to them. I think they had an extra level to their game compared to me. Of course, I was not here, but if I should look at them, I think that was that they did well today.
You think there are more positives overall then, given the final results and the fact we've come back again?
Yeah, I think for me, there's still bits we learned today. Definitely, I always do that a lot. But I also think the positive again which is super, super important. When we go down, we stay in the game, we keep fighting, we keep doing the right thing. Today, I think we kept the structure better than against Wolves and kept doing the right thing, which I think was important.
So there you go. That was Thomas Frank on the back of it finishing Bodo Glimt 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Thomas Frank there emphasising the fact for him that what he does find pleasing is the fact Spurs are coming from behind to get something from games. But look, we're not trying to dress it up here. At the same time, the worry would be is that we're in the games. We're not looking brilliant on the eye. And I know for us in general, look, whilst we are enjoying seeing Spurs, I know T didn't agree with this, the fact of using some form of resilience to come back and get points. You do want to see more. And I think it comes back to that point again where you have to look at the way we're being set up tactically and what the squad is being asked of. It's quite interesting because he did mention there that he wasn't or didn't seem to be underestimating Bodo Glimt because he seemed to indicate the fact that he knew it was going to be a very, very tough place to go. But can't help but thinking what we said beforehand in the green room, that it just felt, me personally, I felt like we had one eye on Leeds. Other things that have come out from Thomas Frank's presser, which we're going to try and bring you soon into this show, is that he has confirmed that Mickey van der Ven is going to be one of the new members of Tottenham's leadership group. And Frank is expecting that group will be named on Thursday. So just to confirm, Thomas Frank has confirmed Mickey van der Ven will be one of the new members of the leadership group. And that is going to be coming to us in full on Thursday. Frank also says that he believes Spurs' biggest issue was that they often threw away the ball too quickly after winning back possession. Just to steer back to you, Cracks, we do go back to the team, because we always ask this question. You know, I don't believe managers ask the players to play like that or set up like that. So is that down to them not understanding the message? Is that down to them doing their own thing? Or what is that down to when you get a performance like that, do you think? Can you put your finger on it?
Rick, I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's almost as if we start going down Hades' circle of hell and we just can't pull ourselves out. I mean, when we were giving the ball away in midfield and it was coming back from the defence, you could see the defence rucking with the midfield, and then the midfield was rucking with those up front. You could see it, and it was like the poor attitude just sort of run through the team tonight. Nobody really went, okay, come on, get hold of the ball. You know, Richie wasn't chasing stuff up front. His shoulders rounded and he was like, oh, I've lost the ball. Instead of going, right, now I need to work 10 times as hard to win that back. Bentancur kept giving the ball away and putting the defence under pressure. And it ended up like almost a row was going on between each department on the pitch. And it was, you could kind of feel they're all pointing at each other instead of actually mucking in and starting to try and pull together. But, you know, Frank was right publicly in what he just said with that resilience that was shown. And I'm really hoping that is for public consumption. And when he gets back in that dressing room, saying to them lads, I shouldn't be out there speaking about the resilience to come back, because you shouldn't have to be coming back. You shouldn't have to be showing that type of resilience. The resilience should be, let's get 1-0 up, let's get 2-0 up, and then be resilient in how we defend that lead. That's the type of resilience we need. So, you know, if that's him genuinely happy and not just, you know, painting a face for public consumption, then that would be a worry, because eventually you run out of that resilience. Eventually, that 1 or 2 goals and staying in a game through resilience becomes 3 or 4 goals at half time, because that could have quite easily have been. And there will be teams coming in the Premier League and in this Champions League that will absolutely take you to the cleaners playing like that. So that resilience gets you only so far. It's a different type of resilience that's needed.
You make such an important point there, Cracks, and that's kind of what I was going to ask, coming on to you, Dow, is the fact that, is he telling us one thing in terms of us to the fans, in terms of the media, and hopefully giving the players a different message? Because Frank's been quite honest in terms of the way he does manage a dressing room. He said he's not really someone to really ever lose it. You know, he's normally a calm, composed man that delivers a message to the group. He keeps it fairly simple, kind of gives them 3 or 4 main takeaways and leaves that with the players. Are you hoping, as Crackers is saying there, it's one message to us in terms of what's being portrayed to the media, but that he is giving a bit of a bollocking behind the scenes? Because, you know, this hasn't been the first one, like TJ has said, we've seen such an insipid display. Are you thinking it is behind the scenes a little bit different to what is being portrayed out to us in the media?
Yeah, I would hope so, because I feel that in his coaching style, from what I picked up from Frank, he does lots of showing you what went wrong, showing you what you did well. From the evidence of today, there's a lot to watch to go, it didn't go well, did it? Look at what you did. Highlighting individuals. Look at that performance. What were you doing there? He may not be a screamer and a shouter, but if you put the evidence in someone's face and go, look at it, explain that to me, justify it, and they can't, I don't want that. I expect better. I think it's interesting that they came out at the same time talking about leadership and looking at who can be part of the leadership team and putting Mickey into the group. For me, I'll be saying to him, I don't want to hear about leadership groups. I want to see leaders on my pitch. I want to see leaders step across that line and show me you are leaders. Today, we needed leaders. We needed someone to lead. And Mickey will look at himself today. Captain's armband. There were moments when he lost his head. Bentancur, a senior in the side, that penalty tackle, what were you thinking? There had lots of moments there where people who may end up in this leadership team didn't lead today. And I think that's also important. Rather than just being leaders on paper, you need to be leaders on that field. And I think as we go forward, that's what I'm looking for, the growth now. It's really about how we push on, because as Crack rightly said, we're going to come up against far more complicated opponent, teams who will work out that Tottenham are going to sit in this block and try and defend before winning. We're safety first right now, because yes, we have got a strike force that is inadequate in other places, but we can't play this way and expect to get what we want. And what we want is, from what the board said and from what everyone's looking at, is top four competing. This isn't competing if we stay like this. This is holding on until we get a corner free kick. That's what the kind of rounds we're in, and that's dangerous.
Yeah. My worrying thing is that I've seen the last week or so, Tej, that this kind of running theme has been that you're not at Brentford anymore, you're at Tottenham. So the expectations are slightly different. You know, it was put to him there that we've made, I think, again, in line with our best start to a Champions League campaign. We've got 4 points after 2 games.
Right.
Just how much do you think he'll be looking behind the scenes and critical of the players when it comes to the level of performance, rather than to emphasise, which he is at the moment, saying, but we're coming back to get points? How much do you think there will be behind the scenes a drilling down of these performances need to improve, as opposed to looking at the fact, but we are coming back and getting a point here and there? I say here and there. They've done it in the last 3 games, so they have done this consistently. What do you think?
And he seems, at least in my perspective, in my opinion, he seems like a very pragmatic individual. Again, I think a lot of that is cultural. You know, Northern European chap, and obviously grown up with the game, and I think he's a very analytical person. As far as the kind of the 4 points and our equal best start, we're not idiots. You know, look who we played. You know, so okay, 4 points. Look who we played. So I don't think anyone's going to be turning cartwheels down the Seven Sisters Road because we've got 4 points from 2 games against Villarreal and Bodo Glimt.
Mm-hmm.
What would be concerning me, and I think this has been a really good show already today, with the comments that you and the chaps have made, and also, of course, these fabulous comments coming in from our viewers and listeners who are a very learned lot and invested and involved. Our performances generally recently have not been good. That's it. That's what's happening right now. We're just not playing well. And sometimes that's a sort of mercurial equation to try to decipher. But this isn't. It's lack of effort, energy, and urgency. And again, that's a decision that you make. Either you make it in the dressing room or you make it in the tunnel as you're walking up to the pitch. You know,
is he calling them out on that, OT? Do you think, is he calling them out on this behind the scenes for you? Is he in the dressing room giving them a bollocking?
Who knows, man? I'm going to take a leaf out of Crack's book. I don't know, mate. And I don't know if that works or doesn't work. You know, there are some players who need a cuddle and some players who need a slap. I don't think he's worked them out yet. And the thing is, as well, is that what might be quite telling is that there are players at this club that have done things at the very highest level, and your manager hasn't. I also felt this about Ange, is that he hasn't done things at any kind of level to what a lot of these players have. So is that a problem? Is there a certain innate arrogance in certain players who, even if you do get a bollocking or a cuddle from somebody who you don't really respect because you don't think that they've done things at the level of the game that you have, is that part of the issue? Again, I'm not going to hypothesize too much because I think it's a kind of, you know, it's a non-fulfilling prophecy. There's no point even talking about it. But something needs to change. We actually need to reset. Let's reset and play like we played at the very start of the season. People are already talking about, the new manager bounce is gone. Please don't have it be a new manager bounce. Please, let's not have it be that.
Okay.
So let's just reset, go back to basics, do what it is that we were doing well, do chase down every ball, do win your 50-50s, do go out there with the heart of a lion. And again, I say this every single show. If you want to beat us, you have to snap us in half, because we will give you nothing easy. I haven't seen that for a while. That's what I'd like to see at Leeds. Come flying out the blocks and be like, if you think you're going to win today, you're going to have to break us into.
Yep, that's fair. Look, we're going to quickly hear from Mickey Van.
Rick,
Go on, Cracks.
it was quite interesting that the reporter said to Thomas, 4 points from the 2 games, and that's our best start in the Champions League. Well, as it stands, we've gone up like Fulham High Street and taken some bars of chocolate off of some like junior school kids at the local like private prep school.
We're not going to do the best chocolate bar again, are we, mate?
But no, exactly. But at some stage, we're going to have to get on the tube and start trying to take some bars of chocolate off the Mandem on Tottenham High Road.
Yes.
Now let's see how many bars of chocolate you're going to take off of the kids then. Do you know what I mean? So that's a great start to the Champions League. Well, yeah, there's tougher tests to come. Don't worry about that.
I tell you, like Mike says, it's a marathon bar at the moment. We're looking for a marathon bar. It's a marathon podcast. Look, we're going to go quickly for our next break of the show. We do get into the interesting points around some of the players. Let's hear from goal scorer and now new member of the leadership team that is willing and waiting. That's going to be announced on Thursday. Let's hear quickly from Mickey van der Ven, who gives us his thoughts on the back of Spurs nicking a 2-2 draw up at Bodo Glimt.
Well, Mickey is here in Norway. Mickey, a real dramatic game this evening. What was your take on it?
Tough game, really tough. 2-0 down, so I think I can be happy with a point.
So many factors to consider, especially in the second half, with obviously the penalty missed earlier in the game and then the disallowed goal that we had. Are you happy to come away with a point, given what happened?
Yeah, especially what I said, when you're 2-0 down, you can be happy when you play and you see the game overall that we were struggling. You can be really happy with a point.
How does it feel to score your first Champions League goal?
Yeah, it's a nice feeling. Of course, I'm happy also we get the point, because otherwise, if you lose 2-1 and you score, it doesn't really matter. But happy to score my first goal, for sure.
How important was the timing of your goal straight after theirs? Obviously, we did it earlier in the game as well, but it got ruled out. But to keep hitting back every time they scored was quite important for us, you felt?
To be honest, did we score quite fast after the second goal, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's also important, because I think that gives some extra pressure on them as well. So they knew if we scored a 2-1 straight away, they need to drop, and we are coming. And I think we played really well after this. We got the point.
You were captain this evening. How proud were you of that achievement?
Yeah, really proud moment. Happy to help the team as well today, and I was hoping for a better performance for our team, but I'm happy with the point, and really proud moment for myself and my family, of course.
We know that you're a leader on the pitch anyway, but to have the armband, did you find yourself with any extra responsibilities tonight?
No. I just did what I always needed to do, and that's it. Yeah.
That was Mickey van der Ven there. Proud Mickey van der Ven. Cracks, why are you shaking your head? Come and tell us, why are you shaking your head?
You could just tell, like, he was just going, I better say the right thing here, hadn't I? And, he shouldn't be pleased with that tonight. He shouldn't be.
He lost his head a few times, didn't he, Mickey? He lost his head a few times, Mickey.
Are you pleased to get a point back? It should be no, because that performance just wasn't good enough. Could you imagine a Roy Keane coming out and saying something diplomatic along them lines? He'd be telling you, that was shit tonight. That was shit, and we've got to be better, and we've got to do better. And all this leadership group, come on, give a captain the captain's role. This group thing, I just don't get it. Stevie Perryman, I know it's a different game now. He was your captain, and then occasionally Graham Roberts would step up and come in and make a good captain when Steve wasn't available. But I can tell you something else as well. In that dressing room, they were all captains. You'd get a lot of captains, even if they never wore the armband. Everybody needs to be their own captain. You don't need this leadership group. Well, you can start having like votes, like let's draw straws, and it's six in favour and 5 not. And come on, you have a captain and just leads the team. I don't know. That's not for me, Rick. But yeah, it's honestly call it tonight what it was. It was not good enough, and this dancing around of that's a great start to the Champions League, and that was some resilience. Sometimes just call it for what it is, and everybody would go, okay, I admire the honesty. They seen that wasn't good enough tonight. Rant over. Thanks very much. Good night.
No, I think that's very fair, Cracks. I do think on that point that if we do see similar to these performances, like, to be fair, Darren and TJ have said, that line of the fact, but we're showing resilience, at some point that's going to become an irrelevance if we keep seeing performances of this nature, because people are going to judge what they're seeing over the course of 90 and a bit minutes, rather than that we're coming back to snatch a point from, the jaws of defeat. And again, we've seen that in Wolves. We've seen that, of course, with regards to Bodo Glimt. The reality is we know right now we've got a Europa League group in a Champions League campaign at the moment, bar PSG. We know, as Darren said, that in the latter stages of this competition, it's going to be harder, right? So we're going to have to up our level. We're going to have to seriously up our level. So, look, we shall see. Look, we're going to bring you in to obviously that starting lineup Spurs did name. And before we do, we have got over nearly 4,500 of you watching us live. So, again, thank you ever so much for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. A little bit of admin quickly if I can. We've got, obviously, Dale back from T-Talk in Tottenham. They've just dropped a quick episode. They have. Cracks has got some great Legends Nights coming up. I think they've got Teddy Sheringham this week. That's already sold out, but we're going to promise you we're going to bring you the latest on Cracks' latest events that are coming. He's got some great ones that obviously for Christmas time, if you're looking for great presents for the family, mums, dads, brothers, sisters, youngsters, Cracks has got you sorted. So we'll bring you that later in the month. Cracks going to give us some dates and what he's got available for that. And we've got the wonderful TJ Ramini back on our screens. Never shy of a quiz. Good as a distraction right now if you need one. If you want to head over to California and see beautiful sunsets and beautiful backgrounds and just TJ's beautiful face, really, make sure you go and catch the latest quizzes on here. Pretty much anything you want to do to avoid talking Tottenham, really. But you can help us talk about Tottenham, and you can also help us in the latest Football Content Awards. We've been nominated for Best Podcast in Premier League, Best in Social Creators. You can help us bring another trophy home at Ellen Road, Leeds, where we're going actually to next. That's where we'll be heading for this award ceremony. You can vote for us if you can hit that QR code, or for those that are listening on audio, follow the episode description link and vote for us in those two categories. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated, and keep liking and subscribing to the show. Right, team for this one. Thomas Frank, he made 5 changes to Tottenham's team to face Bodo Glimt. Now, Frank remains without strikers Dominic Solanke, who, just to bring you up to speed on him, he's had to have a minor procedure on his ankle. No time frame yet set in terms of his return. Rando Kalamawani, the longest dead leg in the history of dead legs. Frank has said the dead leg is improving. So make of that what you will. Captain Christian Romero had been left at home as a precaution, which I know will actually send shivers around the fan base. So we'll bring you up to date on more if we get any news on what that does mean, if Romero is back in contention for Leeds United at the weekend. But back on the bench, following a recovery from a twisted knee, was Ben Davis. Pedro Porro back in the team after being rested from the starting lineup at the weekend. In midfield, Pat Matasar returns to the centre of the pitch, and Frank decided to give João Palhinha a rest, as along with Mohamed Kudus. So it meant Brennan Johnson came into the team, as did Wilson Odobert, with Xavi Seaman stepping out of the 11. And for Frank, it obviously meant for team-wise, Mickey van der Ven named captain, and part of that leadership group as mentioned. Team-wise, Vicario, Porro, Dante, van der Ven, Spence, Saar, Bentancur, Bergvall, Johnson, Richarlison, Odobert, with the bench of Kinski, Austin, Davis, Palhinha, Xavi, Udogie, Gray, Kudus, Scarlett, Olasise, Hardy. And look, to be fair, Tottenham should have been ahead in the early stages, like we said. A really early chance for Richarlison. Dow touched upon this, where, like I say, the commentary on TNT, as Dow said, was that didn't expect the ball to be coming to him, even though he is the striker. So make of that what you will. An early chance of Richarlison not taken. TJ's obviously giving you his verdict in terms of Richarlison and what maybe Spurs need to do. But to be fair, I've got to just touch upon the point that there were times in this game, Dow, in the early periods, where we had 10 men behind the ball, last-ditch defending, barely getting out of our own half in the build-up. And our only chance really came from a transition. I mean, it was turgid. it was horrible at times. And to be fair, in that opening 25 minutes, I have to say, Bodo Glimt completely outplayed, outfought, and outworked Spurs and had a lot of opportunities to go ahead. And we'll come on to the penalty in a second, but what did you make that opening 25 minutes down, bar the Richarlison effort we obviously touched about earlier on?
Worrying. Really, 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 really worrying, because we sat so deep and we were hanging on. And I was trying to work out what the tactic was, what they were told in the dressing room, and going, are you trying to hit them on the break? Are you looking at looking at Odebear and Johnson to be pace and just to look for a long ball over the top? Is that what we're trying to do? And I couldn't work it out. And it was concerning, because I was like, if this is early in the game and this is how we're structurally set out, this is going to be a long night. And that's what it ended up being, a very long night. And you can't expect any defense, I don't care who you've got at your back for, to hold on playing like that all the way through a game. It doesn't serve you. And I think that's why I was concerned. I was really concerned. That opening 20 with Bodo Glimt passing the ball so well, they moved it quickly and slickly, and they looked like a Champions League side. And let's be real, they're a Europa League side. And it looked like we looked like a Europa League side. We didn't look like we were, either of us, like we're playing at the level that the Champions League's about. And then you look at Bodo Glimt, who is a team that we should have been looking at to go, that's where we pick up an extra 3 points here, because we want to secure a good position so we get an easy draw if we continue. So, yeah, it was concerning, the opening 20, because there was no outlet, there was no outball. They didn't hold on to the ball. The midfield would have passed it into air, into dead space, and you're going, we can't do this. And that's the starting block. So what was going wrong? And you're going, this couldn't have been the game plan. And if it was, wow, alarming.
Yeah, do agree on that point. Do agree. Look, penalty to Bodo. They had a real good opportunity to go ahead. Tej, we'll come over to you on this point where, look, fortunately, they skied it over the bar. You know, Kasper Hall blazing it over, a really, really poor penalty. But obviously that came from a foul from Bentancur, where just wasn't his finest hour. He slid in on Frederick Andre Bjorkan on the edge of the area. It was really poor from Bentancur. You know, as a senior player, very poor judgment. And this actually comes on the day, Tej, that for those that are unaware, we had a update from friend of the show, Alistair Gold, which is suggesting that Rodrigo Bentancur is now on the verge of signing a new contract for Tottenham. What did you make of that moment? Because it was erratic from Bentancur, and he's a player that is actually one of the most senior players in the squad. How concerning is that for you?
Yes, it was concerning, but again, not to be this guy, his performance today was diabolical. Again, he's just really been off it recently. I'm such a fan of his, as you know, Rick. He's just such a technically gifted player. And, you know, when he's on his game, he just glides around the pitch. He's as good with his left as he is with his right. He's got great vision. He reads the game beautifully. He passes the ball beautifully. He works hard. I'd like him to add a few more goals to his game. He was very unfortunate to have that goal chalked off. I'm sure we'll talk about that. That never should have been chalked off. Never. When Van der Ven has hold of that kid's shirt, he has hold of it for maybe a second. And if you'll notice, he's got the guy behind him has got two arms around his waist. So unless they're auditioning for, you know, Strictly Come Dancing, they've got no reason to disallow that goal. But yeah, Bentancur flying in like that again, bro. You just don't need to do that, man. Like, how long have you been playing this game? Just don't need to do that. The guy's right on the edge of the box, kind of nearly at the byline there. Just stand in front of him and say, "Okay, well, beat me then." You know, and also even the cross that the kid put in, Vicario dealt with it easily.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Just again, symptomatic of a poor performance, and again, it looked to me like lack of mentality. You're not ready for the game. And again, that speaks to me of complacency, if not arrogance. And so, poor game. I would actually bench him on Saturday and start Archie Gray ahead of him. Everything I've seen of Archie Gray this season looks extremely encouraging. I just had a big waffle about if you're given an opportunity, you take it. Yeah. And I think this boy deserves a starting place on the team sheet, and give somebody like Bentancur something to think about. It's not the worst thing in the world as an older man to have the idea of a younger man breathing down your neck. Yep. This is what we want. We want players competing in a healthy way, of course, with each other and for each other. And so that was just a single silly moment in a forgettable performance from Rodrigo Bentancur.
I agree with that, T. Just one thing, Cracks. I mean, are you surprised or are you happy by the news that the club now look to be tying down Bentancur? Because it was both him and Basuma that was in these last 18 months to go. You know, their contracts are going to expire next summer respectively, but it appears that they're on the verge of agreeing that new deal for Bentancur. Would you be worried by these last few performances? Because to be fair, in the earlier part of the season, the first couple of games, he looked back to his best. So, any concern, Cracks, by these last few games from Bentancur?
That is a problem with him. He does blow a little bit hot and cold, doesn't he? And when he's cold, he's freezing. And when he's on it, he's a fine player. So, you know, he's got to find some form and some rhythm, and build on good games, and then not have those 2 or 3 decent games and then fall off. But obviously, you know, the club offering him a contract, you would hope there would have been some dialogue and conversation with Thomas Frank and the team if he fits the bill for what they want going forward. And if that is the case and Thomas Frank wants to keep him because he sees a player that will be of use to him over the next 3-4 seasons, should he stay here that long, and you hope he will because he'll be successful and earn that, then you have to back the manager, don't you, and his decisions and how they see it. So, but yeah, tonight, miles off of it, and that tackle for the penalty, as TJ rightly said, was absolutely symptomatic of where their heads was, and just not in the game, not in the right frame of mind, not switched on. And yeah, it was literally the attitude of the team that manifest in that tackle. It was brainless and just not good enough, and a mile off of it. And thankfully for us, he skied it, because if that goes in, then I don't think we're talking about a draw tonight. I really don't. I think they go in, you know, streets ahead. They go in maybe 2 or 3-0 up, 3-4-0 up even. Yep. That would have given them huge confidence, and we wouldn't have come back from that. So yeah, it's let's see with Bentancur, but there's obviously a player in there. There's a player in a lot of these players. It's, can we get that out of them? Yep. Constantly, you know, that's what Thomas Frank's been paid the big bucks to come in, along with his coaching staff, to do. So it is, you know, it's a watching brief at the moment.
It is. I mean, just on that penalty, you know, the ball would have actually fell at the stadium, but there was a protective net there to stop it from happening. That's how bad the penalty was. So it was a massive, massive let-off at that point in the game. And to be fair, I think you look back at Spurs' most recent performances. I go back to Doncaster in the Cup, the Wolves game. And to be fair to Frank, he actually said it afterwards. Spurs have that inability to just keep hold of the ball. And that's the concern, that, you know, it's really not good enough from the group of players that are on there, that the bare minimum you're asked them to do is keep hold of the ball. And there was one-way traffic even after that, where Brunstad is unmarked in the box. He smashed a shot over the bar. And you just kept asking yourselves, how could they keep creating chances so easily? And I think the thing is, going into half-time, we'll come to you, Dow, is that there was a feeling that Bodo wanted it more. And it's a horrible thing to say as a fan when you have to admit that. And, you know, we'd like to think Frank was frustrated. You think he was going to get the players in the changing room. You know, there was actually a huge round of applause from the Bodo fans at half-time, because they seemed to know how much they dominated Tottenham in that 45 minutes. And there was a kind of feeling you thought, how in the world are we going in 0-0 at half-time? Because we were absolutely battered in that first half. And you could have made really a strong argument for Kudus, Polina, Simmons and Udogie to all come on at half-time. So therefore, Dal, how surprised were you that there were no changes at the break? Because I think Frank has made this point really in the last few games where he hasn't really made changes at half-time. He's tended to go with the same 11, which you could argue to some degree maybe backfired, because they did go one up eventually. So should there have been a change there maybe at half-time to maybe affect things?
I'm a bit old school on that. Is I like manager to do what Frank did today. Is you've had a terrible first half, I roast you in the dressing room, and I give you 5-10 to show me something. And if you don't, get off. That's I'm old school like that. I like that. If you pull me up at half time, I feel like you've not given me a chance to show my mettle or to improve, and I'm just going to sit there sulking. So I think in his man management and how he's trying to lead this team and work with these new players, I think, as I said, he's very analytical. He likes to show things. From what I'm picking up, the screen is quite an active part of his coaching. And if he showed them at halftime, guys, this is what we're doing, this is what's going wrong, you got 10 to improve it, and then I'm making changes. I don't disagree with that.
And just on the point, TJ, you mentioned earlier, Pro Thompson's here. There does need to be that debate on Bentancur, which I know we've just had. I think he should get a new contract because he's a good option. However, I think we need to be looking at Gray being given more chances over him going forward there. So Pro Thompson in the comments
and
there.
that should be the policy with every single player at the club.
Yeah,
every single player at the club. Nobody has a divine right to be on the starting 11 sheet. You have to earn it. Everything in life is earned. It's earned. It has to be a meritocracy. It's that the best players play. It's as simple as that. If we're not running it like that, then we don't have a chance. You can't just sort of stroll into training and think, oh, I'll start because I've got number 9 on my back rather than 29 or 39 or 69 or 79 or whatever it may be. Is that every single player who is on the squad sheet can earn their right to play. And again, that's such a healthy thing. It really is. It's such a healthy thing. When the tide rises, all the boats in the harbour rise with it. And so we have to have that kind of attitude. Sorry to interrupt, Rick.
No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Not a problem at all. Look, we're going to go and squeeze in our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. And they're going to quickly pick apart the second half, some players to mention, but a little bit of admin here. It won't fit it right now, but there's an opportunity if you wanted to see Spurs in style. I can't promise the football, but what we can promise is an opportunity to see him in style if you wish to. Let's bring in Go Privilege to give you all the information about how you can see Spurs in style if you want to. And also our Norwegian can get you around certain things at this time of night that maybe you can't get around other destinations. Let's bring you the latest footage. And we're back after this very, very short break. So for those out there that want to see Spurs in style, maybe actually in style in terms of what you're going to be given rather than seeing on the pitch right now, who knows? You can experience that with Tottenham in style with Go Privilege, premium hospitality and unforgettable match day moments. You can get 10% off Spurs versus Copenhagen with the code LWOSUCL. That's code LWOSUCL. And before I go to NordVPN, Kratz, can you give the fans a promise on anything about style, maybe on the pitch rather than off it, based on tonight for Copenhagen? Can you give me a hope, a prayer?
No, I genuinely can't. But what I can promise you is I've been fortunate enough to go and do a couple of games corporate at the Lane, been invited along. Yeah, I can hear you all now. Oh, boy from Hackney having his prawn sandwiches. But do you know what? At the old Lane, it was shocking. And the difference at the new Lane, if this is your thing, you want to go and treat yourself for a birthday or something of the like, they are spot on. They are absolutely spot on. And do you know, like with anything like this, it's just the staff that you get like helping you. Like I know it's lovely surroundings and that, but you still need good staff. They are very, very spot on. They've got some good people there now. So look, even if the football, which you can't make no promises on, might not come up to scratch, your prawn cocktail and half a lager in the boxes there will come up to scratch. So look, if you are looking to treat yourself, it's well worth doing. You won't be disappointed with that aspect of it.
I can tell. I feel like I got Jason McGovern about a gate crash through my back window here. When we're trying to push that along the the kind of high road. Come and see him in style and go and watch that for 90 minutes. I think I can promise that. But I'm also a reminder out there. Look, if you want to deviate away from football right now and go and do other things whilst you're away from home, you can, of course, with NordVPN, long-term sponsor of the show. And for those that are looking to get a discount over Nord, we offer that here at Last Word on Spurs. Just go to nordvpn.com/LWOS. They give you 4 extra months for free on a 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-back money guarantee. You'll be of no surprise to know, I think Nord had one of their best-selling months only a couple of months ago where one of the certain options was disabled. So, well done to NordVPN. You can find out more by going to Nord and checking out that link. Right, we're going to move on. Got to move on because we could be actually thrown off air, and that's not just on the base of the football. Eventually, Bodo Glimt did go one in front. Hall cut inside and score for Bodo Glimt. And to be fair, look, it was coming. And I think I made the point. Dal, you said you're quite old school. You want to see the team, being given the opportunity in the second half to prove them wrong. But yeah, I mean, this goal really, again, simply really, really poor from a Tottenham perspective. Hall cut inside from the left, turned Porro inside out, curled a shot into the far corner of the net. All too easy. And it goes back to that point again where defending wise, we were simply everywhere. There was not really anyone taking a degree of control. I do want to come to this VAR call because I think, Tej, you brought it up before the break that Spurs thought they grabbed an equalizer when Bentancur turned in Brennan Johnson's shot after Porro's free kick hit the post. VAR told the referee to head to the screen after a shirt pull from Van der Ven on Boyschlift, and it was ruled out. Now, I understand, Tej, at this point, we don't deserve to be level on the balance of play. But is that yet another Tottenham goal we've had this season chalked off for absolutely nothing, Tej?
Yes, of course it is. And if anybody watches a football match looking for justice, pick a different sport. The amount of times that the better team loses the game, there's no justice in football. It just isn't. No, that's never going to happen. And so, like I said, the chap who's behind Van der Ven has 2 arms around his waist. Even before this footage starts with 2 arms around his waist, pulling him. And then, of course, the chap that Van der Ven has a hold of also has a hold of Van der Ven. So if that's not a clear... I mean, it's not even a 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, because poor old Van der Ven is being mounted by this chap at the back and then held back by this chap at the front. So, how that then gets chalked off. And also, that guy's never getting to that header. It was absolutely preposterous. And then, of course, the goal that Richie didn't score it. It was an own goal. But, why did that take so very long? They're just trying to find anything possible to chalk off goals. They wanted Bodo to have their story tonight. They wanted Bodo's first Champions League game at home to, behead one of the big boys. That we're looking for any conceivable opportunity. But again, know that going in. To use a boxing analogy, never leave it in the hands of the referees. And knock him out. Yeah, really annoying. Just an annoying game generally. I thought Van der Ven had such a good game tonight, and yes, he perhaps Rush. Tonight, and he lost his head.
Steady. We're in September.
Yes, exactly. It's a long old season ahead. Let's see. We were saying we'd never seen Van der Ven behave like that, and I kind of didn't mind it. Again, he's fully coys, like Pedro Porro, fully coys, and I like that. I like how that passion can manifest itself in effort. He wasn't just strolling around the pitch tonight, was he? He was really giving it everything. And so I'm very pleased that he got that goal. Crackers is right. He shouldn't be saying that he was happy with that. None of them should be happy with that. And to be honest, if he's part of the quote unquote leadership group, he should be really displeased. And he should be also saying that won't ever happen again. Not on my watch. Why do you never hear somebody say that? Why does someone never step up and go, I promise you, if I'm on the pitch, no one gets away with that. I promise you.
It's a really important point.
That's a real promise, not a footballer's interview promise. If I'm on the pitch, nobody gets away with that. Where's that captain?
Yeah, it's an important point you make there, Tej. I mean, Crack's only asked you about this quickly, is that Van der Ven, he had quite an interesting evening. Obviously, scored the goal, but he was then furious after the goal was disallowed. I completely wiped out Auckland. He was booked and then reacted furiously. If you're a captain, is it fair to say you need to keep your head? If that was Romero, the narrative would be, there you go, Romero off again, losing his mind. But obviously with Mickey being Mickey, doesn't really get spoken about. You know, is there a case of, you know, you're the captain for the night, got to have a sense of more control there? Or did you like it, Cracks? What did you think of it?
Well, I think that's maybe just people's perception in their heads of who's who from around the world, isn't it? When you think of the Dutch, you always think of the cool, calm, collected type, you know, that not fazed by much. And when you think of the South American, you think of snarling lunatic that's going to take you out from the waist up. Like, you know, so that sort of comes into play. He was. I think with that VAR decision, Rick, I've got no problem with that goal being disallowed for that if that is the bar that's set. My problem with VAR is that next week that will be allowed by another referee in another game, and that's the real problem with VAR, is that it's still subjective. We got promised this system that would come in and give us binary results and binary outcomes, and we're not. We're just adding in another layer of subjectivity, which we had when we just had on-field decisions. VAR is an absolute bollocks nonsense on stilts. It really is. I mean, as I've said before, referees before VAR were getting up in the high 90%, 90 odd percent of decisions correct, and linesmen, officials were getting that correct. There was nothing to fix, absolutely nothing. But football generally moaned that we need this, we need this, we need this. And then it came along and everybody went, well, that's not working. Well, like anything, like new owners of a club, be careful what you wish for, because sometimes you will get this come along. So, look, if it's to be disallowed for a shirt pull, which happened, fine, as long as it's every week. Otherwise, you have to let them go. Have some consistency with it. And he was rightly furious because, you know, Mickey's watched games on the telly and Match of the Day and been involved in games where that's been let go. Yeah. And now it hasn't. And given that we hadn't had, like, you know, it was the starving dogs being thrown rubber bones tonight, wasn't it? And you know, all of a sudden we get that and it gets chalked off. So he was angry, but you know, sometimes even as a captain, football is an emotional game, and you know, just because you got the captain's armband on doesn't mean you're not going to get annoyed, and then for a few minutes until you clear your head, you're gonna come across, like, you know, these sorts of things, like where he got the booking with the challenge and that. But at least somebody showed something, you know, because up till then, that was nothing. It was moribund, if I may use a word that TJ's more likely to use than I would.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got to come on to the second goal very quickly. I know we're really, really pushed for time here, but the nature of it, again, from Tottenham, it's so poor. Hall makes it 2-0 as Bodo hits Spurs on the counter. It looked like the move had run out of momentum, but Hall chopped past Porro and drilled a left-footed shot past Vicario. You know, it's just the nature of the goal and way this came about, really. It was an awful kick from Vicario, and the scorer had absolutely done Porro as well before putting it in the back of the net. I mean, it was just a really, really poor goal for Spurs to concede. And we're getting to that point with Vicario where, you know, there's a kicking problem, there's bad clearances, there's being beaten from distance. You know, I've got to say to you, I said it on the last show, I'm getting really worried about Vicario. I'm getting really worried. And my worry would be that in these last few weeks, he is declining rather than improving. And people might think I'm having a witch hunt here. I'm not having a witch hunt. I'm just kind of telling you what I'm seeing. Because, look, I like Vicario for his mentality, his passion. You know, I think one of the biggest things I find with Vicario is that he's good at bollocking the people around him. But when it comes to taking responsibility of his own, and Dal there is nodding his head as well, he doesn't seem to be doing so. I mean, Dal, where are you quickly on Vicario? Because I said this a few weeks ago that Frank did call him out on the back of that Brighton game where he let one slip through his hands. But I'm getting one about Vicario. I really, really am. I wouldn't be surprised at all whatsoever if maybe Kinski is given an opportunity in the team after the Newcastle game, maybe. I'd imagine that'll be his next opportunity. And if he does very, very well there, I would not be surprised if Kinski keeps his place. Where are you at the moment in terms of this goalkeeper concern right now with Vicario? Is there a concern for you?
I'm concerned with you, Rick. I'm in that camp because our defence has made Vicario look a lot better than he has been this season. And he's been allowed to gently just kind of grow in confidence. That's what I thought was going on. However, what I saw again today is when the pressure's on, when he is called into action and it doesn't go well, a mistake, a goal conceded, or the defense let a guy through for a shot, he charges out and he's berating everybody. And part of me goes, just focus. It's like he hits the panic button and it's like, guys, and it's like, calm down. And I feel that he plays the game like that. And it's funny, Cracker's doing like mentalities of people, and you go like, is he that crazy Italian that you just go, just calm down, like just relax, breathe. And I don't know if that helps your back four, because if your keeper is that erratic and panicked, it makes you panic and it makes you on edge. And I don't know how it builds confidence in him. And even with the goal kicks today, Van der Ven was taking most of them. Like, and you look at that and go, I only see that, no disrespect, I see that in kids' football. When you've got a goalkeeper and you go, oh, we can't kick, so we're going to make the centre-half take it. And there's an opposition, you go, keeper's suspect. And instantly you want to put pressure on him, you want to go for him. And I feel that it gives a lot of warning signs that Vicario isn't holding his own. He isn't dominating his box. He doesn't do that at corners. And again, at corners, we've improved defensively, so we've took that away from him. So I think that Spurs have improved around him, but he is still a problem. When he's called in, he's a great shot stopper, but there's so many weak links in his game that I feel that when we put Kinski in, I feel he may stay there.
Cracks, let's bring you in just very quickly, Goalkeepers Union on this subject. Where are you? Because it does feel like I say in the last few weeks, I'm having growing concerns about Vicario. You know, I spoke in the last couple of seasons. Listen, we've got to remember, it's his third season here. It's not his first season here, right? So you want to see a progression year upon year. But my worry in the last few weeks is I'm actually seeing a regression. Is that fair, or am I being harsh there, Cracks?
No, not at all. And goalkeeper, no different to any other position on the pitch. If you're not tearing it up, then that person waiting to take your place should come in and take your place. And his distribution has been really poor of late. So, yeah, you know, it's these are the hard decisions sometimes you have to take with positions and players, and just say, that's not enough at the moment, and I'm going to give the number 2, Kinski, going to give him a chance to see what he can do. And then it's down to Vicario to go away, and he either, you know, sucks it up buttercup and tries to like improve on where he's lacking, or he goes away and sulks about it. So it's no different. But yeah, he's been off of his game lately. I don't think there was much he could do with the goals this evening. You know, if defence isn't shutting down players and allowing them to curl balls into the top corner, because Bodo have got that quality to be able to do that, then it is what it is. But look, I said before he came,
his nervousness for me, I think Dowd was touching upon this. His nervousness now, I think, is transcending across the defence. I'm looking at us, our defending now, and they look like they're being quite erratic, because the goalkeeper is almost setting that precedence of being quite chaotic, and that's not a good thing. You know, we've had quite a good defensive record this season, with quite a number of clean sheets. But my worry would be, like, you know, from you, your son's a goalkeeper, you're around goalkeepers. You know, one of the things about a goalkeeper is that you go to them as a calmness and an assurance, and when you're not getting that calmness and assurance from them, that chaoticness, I think, for me, spreads across the defence, and you can see that, Cracks. I'm not saying you can, because you can see it in recent weeks, right?
Yeah, they're the drummer in the band, aren't they? And it starts with them, and they see everything in front of them. And a back four with a good, calm goalkeeper behind them will be more settled. Okay, look, you know, you want your goalkeeper to come out and have something to say when it needs saying, but it's all the time. He just comes out and he's like, you know, he's just going crazy. So yeah, it's a worry. Maybe if you bring a Kinski in with a little bit of a different mentality and attitude and a calmness at the back, it may change the dynamic of how the back four feel. But at the moment, he should be worried for his place, and if he can't get it back, then that's a position we may have to look to go out and strengthen. And there's some good goalkeepers out there that you could tempt to the club for the right money. So it's I'm with my lad Tom. I like Verbruggen at Brighton. He's like 22, 23 years old. He's already the Dutch national keeper.
Yeah,
Mamardashvili went to Liverpool, and I was calling when we went for Vicario.
I remember you were saying
there's the one we need to go and get.
Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool's absolutely stuffed full of great goalkeepers.
Yeah. Kelleher went. Yeah,
he's unbelievable. The lad at Palace as well, another fine goalkeeper. So there's a few decent ones out there. So Vicario may need to start being a little bit worried.
Yeah, I know, Tej, we had a discussion on the last show with Vicario, and the thing at the moment is I don't think the club are going to address it in this window, but I think it is something they may have to look at potentially, dare I say, in the summer. I don't know how easy it is to get a goalkeeper in January. You would imagine, I feel like at some point he's going to give Kinski a chance. And my only worry would be is if he does give Kinski a chance, that I think Vicario's mentality for me is someone that wants to be a number one. And my worry would be, Tej, is how he takes to being dropped, then to be a number two, how he'd come back from that. Have you got a gauge on that for you in terms of how we'd handle that?
I think your inclination is accurate. Of course, we're merely judging this on what we see on the television, but I think we've seen enough of Vicario on the television to correctly deduce he is not one who is going to be delighted about playing second fiddle. However, you are an employee of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. You'll do as you're told, as far as I'm concerned. Again, I have a very, very short tolerance for petulance and childish behaviour. I'm not going to have some, puerile throw toys out the pram. If you're told that you're on the bench, you're on the bench. And to Cracker's point, if you don't like being on the bench, rather than sulking, you bust your ass at training and you show to the manager and the managing team, the staff, that you were crazy to bench me. Look at me now. Play out of your skin. It has to be competitive. It has to be, you do want to look at your understudies and go, shit, I hope they don't give him a chance.
Yeah, I
really
totally
good,
agree. Yeah.
And so if he's benched, then bench him. I said on the last show, he's not one of my gravest concerns. I have graver concerns. Like I said, there is a general malaise at the club right now. That's three games in a row that we've had this, like I said, this sort of toothless, listless,
apathetic,
complacent attitude. That for me is a systemic issue, which is far larger than any individual. We are only as strong as our weakest link. And so that galvanization for me, homogenization, cohesion, whichever word you wish to use, that needs to be addressed. I would like a reset. Let's reset, guys. Let's go back to the beginning of the season, how we were brimming with confidence, how optimism was racing through all of our veins, how we finally thought that we had an opportunity to do something special. Go back to that and build from there, because there is like I said, a sort of general arrogance and indolence which I cannot accept.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, we can't get away from it.
Just quickly, Rick, Raj in the comments makes a really good point that if you do bring Kinski in, the goalkeeping position is a little bit unique and different to outfield, and you do have to give goalkeepers a run. Probably like the only other position similar would be a striker, where you have to give them a little bit of a run to try and put it in. One end, you have to give the man the other end a bit of a run to keep it out. So keepers, that nonsense of a couple of seasons ago, that mob down the road having two number ones is just was just unheard of, and that fell quickly on its arse, didn't it? So if you're gonna bring Kinski in, you have to give him a run of a good few games.
Okay, just round us very, very quickly, guys. I know we've got to close. Will Kinski be the number one at the end of the season? Yes or no? Dale, Kinski, number one end of the season. Is he between the six for you?
No, because it's a World Cup year, and I think Vicario will fight hard and still hold on to it. I don't think he should have it, but I think he will still have it.
Okay, Tej, it will be number one coming in the season for you.
I concur with Darren. I think Vicario will be number one. I think right now, I just think Kinski's too young. I think he's a terrific player. I think he's got so many attributes that Vicario doesn't have. But I just think, especially for a new manager and in a World Cup year, I just think there are too many variables there that make it too precarious a decision for Thomas Frank to make. So I believe Vicario stays as number one.
Cracks, what do you think of that point for you? Goalkeeping wise, goalkeeper union, gut feeling for you. Vic, between the six or Kinky? Could be Kinky. Kinski, will he be there? Will he be there in the season?
It's a strange one, because sometimes, even for all what we've just said, dropping your goalkeeper and changing to a new number one can send out some big out a big call, and it can be quite unsettling. Oh, blimey, you know, because goalkeepers are always just the goalkeeper as such. So yeah, you have to sort of get a balance with that of what message does that send out. You know,
it is utterly unique. That decision is if you drop your striker, you drop your winger, you drop your fullbacks, you drop your centre backs, your central midfield. It's nothing, bro. The goalkeeper, he's one, isn't he? He's one of one.
The optics and politics of dropping your goalkeeper could be far worse than dropping the keeper on form alone. So yeah, probably I would say it will be Vicario.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, after that incident, Archie Gray came on. I think, like the boys touched upon there, played ever so well and gave Frank maybe a dilemma, a debate or decision to have in terms of the weekend for Leeds United. Odegaard sent a header across the post from Kudus's cross. Helmerson hit the bar for Bodo Glimt. Spurs did equalise.
I'm going to interrupt momentarily. Sorry, Rick. The Odegaard header. Did anyone see a clean push in his back from the defender right behind? Clean push. Yeah. Like it was away from him, got in front of him, got up, and
goes back to what Crack says. The inconsistency,
way more than VDV on their guy. Yeah. Way more, a really good clean shove. Otherwise, he puts that in. Sorry to interrupt you, mate.
No, mate, absolutely fine. No, I mean, again, like it goes back to what Crack said earlier about the inconsistencies in the league. Is a big frustration for sure. It is. Spurs eventually got their equaliser. I'm not even sure I can say Richarlison equalised, because I think it will go down as an own goal. Gray ran down the right into the box, drilled a shot over, took a massive deflection. I mean, some of the goals we're scoring at the moment, that they are not the most prettiest to watch on the eye. But the Spurs, by hook or by crook, salvaged a point and got out of jail. And it's what, the second or third time we're saying that in a row. We don't want to keep on saying this. I mean, I think as the guys know from their diaries, we're in for a busy next couple of months. So we do need to see an upturn in terms of performances and results if we are going to obviously be able to be excited about the season. I mean, just to close on this point, and how does everyone feel before we look for this final closure on this? TG, you still very much optimistic right now? I mean, you said for you can't stand the petulance, you can't stand the arrogance that's been on display in these last couple of games. Are you seeing enough to still believe this is going to turn around? Is this like a little bit of a blip?
Yeah.
What do you put these last few games down to?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's easy to be reactionary, isn't it? And of course, you know, as we've heard this evening several times, football is an emotional game, not just for the fellas on the pitch, but for the millions around the world that are watching it, and we're no exception to that rule. We've seen already that we can play really well under this manager and in this system. So reset, guys. Just reset. That would be my kind of team talk going into Saturday. I'd get into training tomorrow and I'd just be like, listen, boys, let's look ourselves in the mirror, look at the man on your left and the man on your right, and be honest and say, you're not playing as well as I know you can, to a man, right? And so we as a team are not playing to anywhere near our potential. And by the way, that potential we have already seen several times this season. So rather than heaping yet more pressure onto young shoulders, let's reset, understand how good we can be when we play the best for ourselves and for our teammates, and then go out onto training every single day, give it our all, and then come, whether we play Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is, we will never capitulate. Never. Be a hard team to beat. Go out there and make sure that your heels hit your ass more than your opponents do, because you're just putting in the hard graft, the hard miles. That's always something that I believe we can all do as human beings, no matter what we do for a living, is give it our very best every single day. So that's what I'd like to see. I'm not concerned, but I'd like a reset, and let's go back to our best. Lovely being on the show, man. Thanks for having me. Boys, great to see you. Darren, Crackers, always a pleasure. Ricky, thank you so much. To the viewers and the listeners, my love and respect as always, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Tej, you're a superstar. Dowler's come to you. You're a very positive fan. You do lift the fan base. I know the young dads that come and see you on the school run are very always complimentary about you coming on here. We know we again know the fact, and you actually said this when we appointed Frank. We've hit the reset button again, right? So when you hit the reset button, there is going to be a need of time, patience for development of a new system, new tactics, new players finding their way. We've only lost 2 competitive games. Is it fair to say that we just need to take a little bit of a rain check, a back seat, and just let this settle down? Because again, we've got a manager trying to find his way, and again, I'll make this point: no Solanke, no Madison, no Kulusevski, no Mwani. That's 4 players that you would think would transform Tottenham's attack right now.
You're 100% right. We just need to, as fans, I think TJ articulated beautifully what we need from our team, what they need to give us, what they need to be producing, and that belief, and that we've seen the good performances. We know they can do it. And it's about hitting that mark again. You've set your own bar. Now you've got to rise to it. I think with that, we as the fans have to look at how we approach this now as well, because I think we can get ourselves into believing that Tottenham should be better than they are, should be far more ahead than we are. And Cracks made a great point very early doors on this pod, where we said about it's a free hit in your first season. And I feel that we've got expectations on Frank that may not need to be there, because we won a trophy last season and the expectation level has been set higher, and the Champions League is now a part of our season. And I think maybe it's just going, he needs time, we need to give him time. And right now we're in a privileged position. And I say privileged because we've barely lost a game, and games where we thought we were going to lose, we haven't. And we're still putting out performances and getting points and showing resolve and showing grit and showing that we're not at the level we want to be, we should be, but we're still getting stuff out of these games. And if we can continue to do that, playing this bad, when we start playing well, could be a phenomenal season for us. So let's just keep believing in them, and let's keep giving them the love.
See, Dow, you're a superstar, as is Tej, bless you. Cracks, let's close with you. Look, sometimes a sign of a good team, and you've seen a lot of good Tottenham teams down the years, and you've been very lucky to interview a lot of Tottenham managers in the past. It's like a revolving door, and a lot of ex-players. That's like a revolving door as well. Sometimes a sign of a good team is sometimes not playing well, like Dow says there, but still picking up points. We've had 1 defeat in the Premier League. We've had that Super Cup final defeat. But apart from that, we haven't lost a game. Are you still very patient and, from your perspective, balanced in terms of what you're seeing right now? It's going to take time, right? Again, I mentioned a point. No Mwani, no Kulusevski, no Madison as well. He's missing 3 or 4 players that would directly impact the first team. And like I said before, I don't think it's all his fault that the Levy lag in terms of what was here in terms of players brought in were not under his watch.
No, exactly. And you've got those players that are missing, plus some of the players that are there have only just come in. I mean, Paulinho, he's taken no time to settle, but Xavi coming in, so he needs some time to settle and to get used to what's what. So yeah, it's at the moment there's a lot of moving parts with a new manager coming in, a completely different style of managing and a style of play. So it's at least 1.5 seasons, isn't it? And a couple of windows to try and bring in players that you want. At the moment, Thomas Frank's working out who he is in this job, because it's a huge step up from Brentford with the Champions League and the demands of 2 games a week. So he's learning about himself and what he's capable of. And it looks like at the moment he's stress testing a lot of those squad players to see who he's got round him outside of that starting 11 and whether they're actually up to the job. So, look, none of us have got a crystal ball, but what you would hope would be he'd get to the end of this season and then the long knives come out and it's like, you, see you later. You've had your chance. We've taken a look. You're not cutting the mustard. So thank you very much, but go and find yourself another club. And I think that's a little bit to hark back again what Pochettino done. He allowed that first season. I'm trying to think who was captain that season. Was it Paulinho that stepped
that's
up?
a good point.
I think, and it was like, I'm not really having him as captain.
No,
but
if you remember, was it Cabal when they ended up selling Cabal?
Cabal, sorry, yes, it was Cabal. That's right.
And ask me how I remembered that Cabal.
Everybody went a bit Cabal, and it was like
that's a trivia one for you. That's a Christmas trivia one.
He was, apparently he was the choice of the dressing room.
That's
and
right.
He
got
got to the end of that season, and he was gone. He was gone because it was like, okay, I've had a look at everybody. And you've done it your way. Now it's my way.
Exactly.
This is what I've seen from this first season. And you little group, you can go. And this is now what we're going to do. So I'm hoping that Thomas Frank does a same sort of thing. Yeah, Rudy's right in the comments.
Stress testing the fans as well.
As well. But, this is another reset. And... a brave new world. It's all new behind the scenes as well.
Yeah.
So that Daniel's gone, the new people are in, the king is dead, long live the king, and all of that. So when he goes to them cap in hand at the end of the season and in January, let's hope that they're okay. Let's get on board with this and start giving you a little bit more chicken soup instead of some of the chicken shit that the old chairman used to give us, and see if they're true to their word. So everybody's got to be pulling in the right direction. They've got to back this project, both with time and money. So watch this space. But at the moment, talking about any sorts of panic buttons being hit because of this, that, and everything else is a nonsense. It's for the birds, absolutely for the birds.
Yeah, we've just entered October. Surely not already. Surely this is even before Nuno time. Just as we look to close, just to let you guys know out there, story from the Athletic: Tottenham have ended their relationship with Rothschilds and Co. As the Premier League club say, they do not need their multinational merchants bank financial advice because they are not for sale. So another step by the Lewis family, by the fact that now Tottenham have ended their relationship with Rothschild and Co. That they are insisting Tottenham are not for sale. I do think that's probably for another show because a lot more to that with Crackers chuckling away there. But I want to say a massive thank you to this wonderful elite panel that have given us so much of their time, and they're going to give us a lot more time throughout this campaign where again we'll be with you and we'll be stress tested quite literally what's to come with our diaries, with our lives, with our wives, with our everything. A massive thank you to actors best in the land, TJ Ramini and Darren Hart. And, of course, the wonderful Richard Cracknell. Thank you to over the 7,500 that have been watching us live. You guys are amazing. We love you so much. Keep liking, keep subscribing. Go and listen and watch the latest Talking Tottenham that has dropped. Keep an eye for Cracks. He's obviously got Teddy Sheringham this Friday. That is sold out, but we've got more events coming your way. We're going to give you some more information on. And Tej, bring those quizzes back more than ever. We need to see more of California. Right. We've been the last one on Spurs. Keep safe. Keep well. Don't be stress tested yet. It's only October. And as always, come on, you Spurs.